Hey, this is Jimmy Jive, and you're listening to Motor City Rock Talk. Today, I have a guitarist, hard rock heavy metal band that put out 4 full-length LPs, quite a few EPs, and were very, very popular. They were a hard rock heavy metal band that later added a little bit of punk to their music, I guess. Not that much, in my opinion, but just a little bit of an edge. Anyway, today my guest is a guitarist that was in that band, Mr. Dave Seymour. Dave, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. All right, let's start with a little background. Tell me a little bit about where you're from originally and who some of the bands and artists that may have influenced you at an early age to play guitar and to get in the rock.
Well, I grew up in the Utica area and, to Utica High School and all that. Started playing when I was right around 15, jumped right into Randy Rhoads and Jimmy Page and Judas Priest and, eventually got into some of the other jazz guys like Al Di Meola and people like Jeff Beck, Gary Moore, Leslie West, huge influence, George Lynch, of course. But yeah, just, I've done the cover band thing. I've done a bunch of original bands. The one I was probably in longest was Crank 9. I think we were together about 12 years and did 2 CDs and, and a handful of other songs that we never got around to recording, and I've probably forgotten at this point, unfortunately. But yeah, that was a great band. I really enjoyed Crank 9.
Well, tell me a little bit about Dead in 5. How did that band get started? Who were the members of that band?
Okay, well, I was a little bit late to the party, unfortunately. Basically, what they were was 60 Second Crush.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you remember, James and Tommy and Petter and Shim. They started doing some jamming with Robert Libres. And so basically, switch singers and brand new band name, and that became Dead in 5. Mm-hmm. So I think they'd already been around a good 6-7 years by the time I got there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely correct about that punk influence, and that's that's another thing that drew me to them. I love that little extra raw dose of punk, particularly in the early stuff. They had been through. Well, Brent Hall was the original guitar player, 60 Second Crush, and him and Petter were the team. Brent did the leads, and Petter did a lot of the rhythms. And that again, that's where a lot of the punk came from. Was Petter has that great punk sensibility. Right. But Brent had left for a while, and later to return. Well, a friend of mine had noticed the ad that Dana had put up, and I saw the ad, and I was between bands. I had spent a little time doing an Alice Cooper tribute thing.
Cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It was like I always found Alice Cooper to be really hard, because everything's got to be perfect. Everything works together like a clock. I like to improvise. I like to do my own thing, for better or worse. And you cannot do that to Alice Cooper. So once the challenge of learning all that stuff, and having it down, and I, for every gig or for every rehearsal, I had to refresh my memory. I just can't remember because this shit had to be on. But after a while, it was a little, a little stifling. So I was looking for something, saw Dana's ad, and I had seen Dead in 5 a couple times opening up for nationals with Token and Smalls and stuff like that. I was already impressed. So I wanted it. I wanted it bad. And I dug into their catalog. Every song that I listened to, I liked more and more. I'm like, man, I want this badly. So they gave me 3 songs to learn. I ended up learning like double that. Just had a really good rehearsal, and we all clicked personally. I ended up spending 6 years from there, and proud to call everybody a good friend.
So who was it? Which guitar player then was it that you replaced?
Brent had left for a while. He needed a break from music. So, it was me and Petter for a while, and that was great fun. And then Petter got to a point where, he's got 4 growing boys, and he had stopped doing music and do the full-time dad thing. Yeah. So Brent actually came back. So we kind of kept it in the family. We got a few more years out of it, and eventually Robert kind of retired from music and, kind of petered out. So
that's incredible. So where did you come in as far as recording? How many albums did they have out before you came in the band?
I did 2. They had 3 out? I think they had 3 or 4 out before I joined. Mm-hmm. So I was there for Automatic Death Machine. Okay. We went in and did like another 6 songs. And by the time all those songs got released, Rob had pretty much been done with music, and it was kind of a footnote by the time, we didn't really get to promote it and, do all that fun stuff like we would have liked it done.
They didn't want to continue on, get somebody else to replace them or anything like that?
They did. I stuck around for a while. We put out some ads for Singer, got a really nice guy, good guy, and we changed the name. Mark's his name, and they changed the name to True Devil. And personally, I've been listening to a lot of different types of music, and I was already kind of doing my current thing as a side project. I've been writing songs with Chris Bezos and Lenny Doss for years, and I just needed a change.
Right.
So plus Dana and James live out in Whitmore Lake, and the drive was really getting to me. Yeah. So it was time. I needed to change the scenery as well.
Now, when you came in, did they require you to learn his leads? In other words, did you had mentioned that you like to improvise. Were you allowed to freeform it, or did you have to stick to the program?
No, 100%. They let me do whatever I wanted. I'm still going to stay within the context.
Sure.
Of what Brent had done before me. There were licks that I really enjoyed from him, so I would I'd weave that in there and quote that. But otherwise, yeah, I'd agree to do whatever the hell I wanted to.
Now, when you were in the band, like you said, you came a little late to the party. Were they still opening for national acts? Was the band still pretty hot and
going? Yeah. We did a few of those shows. Did Jeff Tate. Wow. We did Last in Line, Token, which was basically the Dio band with Vivian, and that was a lot of fun. Bucket list show for me was, Dana worked her magic and got us onto a slot opening for Rat at the Fillmore a few years ago. Oh man, that dropped out of the sky. We were not expecting that. I mean, that was the whole rock star trip, dressing room, and that was great fun to see that place from the other side, look out at those balconies, man. That was certainly a bucket list.
Yeah, there had to be a packed house there too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Now, on the recordings that you're on, where were they recorded? What studio, or was it a home studio? Where'd you guys record them?
I forget the guy's name, and I'm sorry.
Sorry.
It was, I think the studio, I think he called itself was it the Lumberyard or it was way out in Plymouth.
Just typically, because I always ask guys in bands that have recorded, especially when they record major stuff like you guys did, because incredible recordings, incredible songs, everything. How long typically did you guys spend in the studio recording one of these albums?
Months to go by just getting the basic tracks. By the time everybody's busy,
sure.
Schedule. I did all my rhythms, and I pretty much double-tracked everything. Petter double-tracked everything of his, so I was able to knock out my stuff in about 3 sessions.
Wow, okay.
But by that time, Bob was working on Gordie Howe Bridge and busy as hell, so that took forever. Although the last batch of songs we did, the drums were done in James' basement. They mic'd everything. We cut, we did some scratch guide tracks for him, and James knocked it out in his basement. And then we sent that to Andy Padalon. I did all my guitars at Andy's out at the loft out in Saline. Andy was just a joy to work with.
When you guys played out, other than doing that big Fillmore gig and all that, where typically were you guys playing at that time? Mostly like the Token Lounge, or where else would you be playing?
We did the Token regularly. Always loved Smalls. Diesel a few times. We did a few travel things. Battle Creek. Went to Ohio a couple times.
Pretty much anywhere you could get a gig.
Yeah. We accepted some backyard parties up mid-state, which were the greatest gigs in the world. Paid in moonshine and beer, and but every gig's there's always something funny, always something fun. It's a chance to play. There's always an experience.
Tell me this: you had mentioned earlier that the band had changed the name of the band. What was that name again?
True Devil.
And why change the name? You're an established group with that name. People know about it. Why change it? Was that in reverence to the guy that left? What was the reasons behind that?
Yeah, kind of. I don't know the right way to say it. It's a fresh start, really. We were writing all new songs. There were a couple that really weren't released as Dead and Five songs that I think they're still playing to this day. So mainly clean slate. That's the best way to put it.
Was it tough then to establish yourself out there with the new name? In other words, did people still, you come out with a new name, you go out and start playing under that name. Did they still know that who you were before that?
A little bit. I wasn't in True Devil very long. They are still going and doing quite well.
Now, did that band record, did you say? Did they put out some music?
They have done some stuff. Yeah, they have done some releases. I am not on any of it, and it sounds great. So,
is it pretty much the same style as Dead and Five was, or did they change it up a bit from that?
I would say it's more metal than Dead and Five was. I guess that's really where I kind of drifted apart a little bit, because for the past few years, I've been listening to a lot of different stuff. And now we're overlapping time periods where about 2 years ago, I started jamming with some buddies, guys I'd known for 30 years. Like I said, Chris Bezos and Lenny Doss. And this was this was an off night thing. Originally, Lenny gave me a shout and said, we're writing some songs. We'd like you to play on it when we record it. And it was challenging music. It was, had to really work at it. It was more melodic than I had played in years. And so it was giving me a chance to, tap into all these other, influences and styles that I had, that I would just basically do at home and not be able to play with anybody.
Is that band the one that you're playing with now? I think it was DLC or DLV or something.
Yeah, for lack of better creativity, Dave, Len, and Chris.
Right, that's kind of what I thought. I've seen some videos of that from a couple, obviously, local clubs. From what I saw, a lot of it was like instrumental. Was there stuff that was non-instrumental that I missed, or are they trying to do it that way?
We do have some instrumentals in the set, which will remain instrumental. But to be honest, we were getting sick of sitting in the basement. We were tight, we were ready to play, but we didn't have a freaking singer. They're like, okay, we'll show up, play an instrumental set. I was always into, all the instrumental guys, Vi and Satch and all that. So again, that was a kind of a bucket list thing for me to do. And we figured, we'll go out there and try and entertain some people. As we play, we'll mention we're looking for a singer. We did a party. We did a couple bar gigs. Good friend of mine, Martine Chaparro, had come to see us out at Trixie's in Hamtramck. And I've done a lot of jam nights and sitting in with Martine over the past few years. And he's like, he was a little burnt on doing the cover thing and wanted to be creative. And been with us about a month and a half, maybe 2 months. We did our first show down at the Corktown Tavern in December. So we're mostly a vocal band now.
Okay.
Martine's a great guitar player. He's got a great voice, just a joy to get along with. So yeah, we're a real band now.
Well, there's nothing wrong with instrumental stuff too.
No, not at all. I'm just kidding.
Now, the one thing I meant to ask you earlier in this, as far as Dead and Five and your other bands that you played in, were you also a writer in those bands, or did you do any actual writing? I mean,
yes.
Obviously you came into Dead and Five and you had to learn their previous material, but were you incorporated as far as the writing in those bands also?
Yeah, even way back when with Crank Nine, always mostly music, but a lot of times when I'll be sitting here at home, and what I like to deliver is like maybe 2 parts, a verse and a chorus, and maybe the parts of a bridge. Maybe I'll have a line of words, maybe I'll have a topic, but honestly, that's all I've ever been good for. I can supply one good line in a song, and that's what you're going to get.
You don't sing at all then? Backups or anything?
It's best if I don't.
Well, at least you're honest.
Yeah, I'll jump in with a gang, background here and there, but no, it's for the most part, you don't want a microphone in front of me.
As far as DLC, I remember you had been posting that, you guys were looking to come up with a quote unquote different name or real name. Have you had any luck with that? Has anybody come up with there, or is it just still in...
Torture never ends, man. We have an ongoing text conversation between the 4 of us where, we're throwing out combinations of words, and then maybe I'll see one word and I'll tag another word onto it. But oh god, I hate the band name search. and no, we don't have anything. It was fun to say Dead and Five. You're like, I'm in Dead and Five. It's a cool name.
Yeah, very cool.
So you got to find that simple yet cool combination of words. Yeah. And we have not discovered it for ourselves yet, unfortunately.
Now, is that band prepared anytime soon to record any of the stuff you're doing?
Yeah, that's the goal. We currently have 12 songs. Martine is up to speed on like 10 of them. And when we did the Corktown Tavern, I think it was like a 45-minute set. So we really got about 8 or 9 songs in that night. A couple of these, like, oh gosh, it's a hard rock, it's fat, crunchy guitars. But we've got some some lighter stuff too. One of the instrumentals, we call it Going Places, because that's honestly what it reminds us of doing, because it's the whole middle section gets into kind of this improv jam thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's something I've been wanting to do for years. That can, sometimes that can hit easily 7 minutes, 8 minutes if we get stupid. Of course. So yeah, I'm also a huge Government Mule, Warren Haynes fan, and to get into a little bit of jam band type of shit is also truly a joy for me. So yeah, we've got some rockers, we've got some more softer melodic stuff, some tricky instrumentals, at least for myself. Mm-hmm. Like we're working on the final 2 songs right now. We're getting to the end of the set list, and then at this point on, I'm dying to find out what's going to spring out with the 4 of us. Let Martin, our singer, get his hands on it as we're writing it. Yeah, it's exciting. It's a side of me that I haven't really explored very much.
Now, as far as him coming in as the singer, then is he doing most of the lyric writing now, or are you guys still doing it together a bit?
It's a good mix. Some of the songs were always destined to have vocals and had stuff written. Other stuff, maybe we had a topic, and so Martin has a gift. We're on our way. I'm really excited when he brings something new. He'll message us and then goes, yeah, I've got something, I want to show you guys Saturday, and we go, oh man, I can't wait. It's kick ass. So
hoping to take this band in a certain direction as far as lyrics, as far as themes, or you just want to be wide open with?
Personally, I'd like to be wide open with anything, because that's what I listen to. Lyrics are important. I don't like mindless lyrics. I don't need to start talking crap on any old bands like that early, like Motley Crue, Rat type of stuff. It's like, I want come on, man. I want to hear stuff. Government Mule has got some wonderful lyrics, man. Warren Haynes is always on top of stuff, but I like a sense of humor, but I also like substance.
It's good to have a balance between that.
Yeah.
Now, do you think, let me ask you this, is there much of a scene left, for hard rock, heavy metal type bands? Is that still something that's happening? Because, I know there's a lot of tribute bands out there, metal tribute bands, but, most of the bands that I've interviewed are usually more like toward punk or rock, punk, not necessarily metal. Is that kind of going away? Do you think that's still alive as far as Detroit?
The thing I loved about Dead and Five is we could put a bill together with punky band, or for example, we put some bills together that had Imminent Sonic Destruction on it. We would have a punk band on it, us. We'd have, we'd have Pat and the guys playing their, progressive super metal, and it all worked. I would love more of that, to be honest with you. I would love diversity. I think on a personal level, there's certain bands that you click with easily. So you always look forward to playing with those guys. We did the Trixies thing in Hamtramck. That was like, I think it was September, October. I can't remember. Sherry put it on, and we've been looking to get out and play a show, and she had a cancellation, and it was heavy music night there. And this new band, I would not call us a metal band. We rock, but but we, Sabretooth Gary was there headlining, who was a fantastic punk band. Oh, I loved them. And our weird version of, this melodic instrumental music at the time. And I think we have hooks, and we, as Dead and Five, could hang with punk and metal and everything. I think that we can hang too, and I love the diversity. Just be cool. Just be cool to people.
Right.
Get along. If you believe it, and it's good, it's going to cross over.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that. You're absolutely right. And I think in Detroit, it seems like it's kind of always been this way, except for maybe a little bit in the 80s when there was that whole East Side, West Side going on. People seem to be open to it. Like you say, as long as the band is good, solid, they're not too cheesy. A lot of cheese out there, but there's a lot of good, talented bands too, that people will come in. I personally love to come in and see 2 or 3 bands that are different. You don't want to come in and see 3 bands that are pretty much the same, like 3 punk bands or 3 metal bands. And you'd heard a lot of that back in the day. Now it's kind of cool. I think it's really cool, actually, to go out and see, a lineup, like you said, where it's, a bit more diverse. You can get, different stuff. And if the audience is, into it too, they're going to maybe hear something that they hadn't, even considered and start digging that too. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I truly enjoy it. And of course we could tailor our set list a little bit to where we were playing. Certainly Den 5 did that. There we had some heavier stuff and some more melodic stuff. So it was kind of easy to tailor the set list.
Mm-hmm. Now, they were considered almost national, weren't they? I mean, because, they had videos, they had this, they had that, the recordings were tremendous. The thing that kind of surprises me, I've been listening to some of the Dead at 5 stuff on Spotify, and there's not a lot of listeners on that. I don't understand it, because the music's tremendous. Do you think that the band's kind of been lost in the shuffle because of time, or what's your take on that?
We gave it a good shot. We were proud of what we did. I like everything that, even, I was drawn to the stuff that I didn't even write. I just said, wow, I want to be part of this. We had our stuff parked on all the platforms, all your all YouTubes and Spotify's and Apple Music's. It's all, it's all there, still there.
Yeah.
I don't know if not, I hate to say this, but maybe we not being a generic commodity, like if we're just a metal band or we're just a speed metal, or maybe it's hard to find your slot for that.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of shit that I'd rather listen to be honest
Sure.
with you. I know that people knew who we are in the Detroit area. As far as national, we had a fan in Australia. I don't know if that.
I also read that the band won a local music award, best metal band or whatever. Now, were you in the group when that happened, or was that before you?
They had won, and I don't for certain, but I'm pretty sure they won one for my joining at least, and then they got two. We got two while I was in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The last one it was announced during COVID, so everybody was locked down when we were listening to, watching the stream of it. Anytime those awards are brought up, they're going to have a controversy of whether awards for music or, is it appropriate, popularity contest, the whole thing. I've read all the arguments. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Give you that. Say what you want. But I had, I was like, oh, that makes you feel good.
All right, let's talk a little bit about gear. Throughout the years, I am assuming you probably changed as far as amplifiers, guitars, or whatever.
You sure you want to go down this hole?
Oh, yeah. I love hearing about gear. What kind of gear?
I'm a little obsessive. I have a problem with gear. I dearly love it. Sometimes it's a little torturous at the same time. So to be quick about it, I'm a tube amp guy. They have not been able to replicate the feel yet. I do have my modelers here, and they're good for certain things. But at my heart, I'm a tube amp person.
Are you talking like Marshall?
I've had a few different Soldanos over the years. In the 90s, I had a Hot Rod 50 that I used a lot. In the beginning of the Crank 9 days, Bruce Ignator designed this modular system, and Randall initially put it out, and where you could put preamp modules into a head shell. George Lynch had done a few signature modules, and so I had a Randall for about 10 years with modular system. Got rid of that. I went full on Engel. I'm a huge Engel fan. I had a Fireball 100 and Den 5. And I've downsized to a Fireball 25 nowadays because I'm not carrying 100 watt anywhere anymore. Yeah, right now it's depending on how I feel. I got a Soldano and an Engel Fireball.
What about guitars? What kind of guitars are you into?
Zach Wilde and Gary Moore made me get a Les Paul in the 90s. I guess, I couldn't, I just wanted that from those two guys, man. I needed a Paul. So back around 1990, I was, they used to have the fairgrounds guitar swap shows.
Yeah.
I had $500 in my pocket, which sounds ridiculous, but I found this beat up looking old Les Paul with the electronics didn't work. Some dealer, he said he was from Chicago, took it home, cleaned it up. It's a 77 standard, and it's just a beautiful guitar. I've had, like I said, I've had that since right around 1990. So, I love Les Pauls, although I've got kind of a mutt or part Stratocaster I have here, Fender body. I ended up getting I don't know if you remember the company Warmoth that does necks and bodies. They make wonderful necks. I slapped a Warmoth neck on and some DiMarzio pickups, so it's a do-it-yourself strap. There's a ton of sounds in that.
What did you hot rod the Gibson with when you got it? When you said you had to, the electronics didn't work. What did you end up putting in that?
I just went with a Seymour Duncan JB, which is still in it to this day. And then Carvin had the next cheapest neck pickups, and they turned out great. So they're Carvin neck pickup in that. I forget what they used to call them back in the day. But so just that Seymour Duncan JB and a Carvin neck in my standard.
Now, which guitar do you like better for playing lead as far as improvising? Is one easier than the other to play, or does it just depend on the song?
Live, I always trust my Les Paul. It's always going to sound good. It'll always be easy to play. Sometimes the Strats can sound thin. When I'm sitting here in my living room, I'm changing sounds like constant.
Right.
Hit this pedal, more dirt, less dirt, clean, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
And the Strat has, all those wonderful combinations of sounds to the pickup selector. So at home, I play the Strat almost all the time sitting here. And I got my drum machine and looper, and posted a million stupid videos on Facebook and stuff. It's all real free flowing, and used to be a lot of alcohol consumed.
What about acoustic? Do you play acoustic guitar at all, or is that something, because you say in this band that you guys are going to change it up and it's not going to all be hard rock, fast stuff? Would you be considering using anything as far as an acoustic guitar?
Part of getting to know Martin over the past few years is, so he was born in Argentina. God, he has this wonderful rhythmic feel, and he does electric and acoustic. So Martin is kind of in the Hamlin pub circuit, Whisk Park over in Auburn Hills. So he does these acoustic nights. And whenever you go see him, the first thing he says is, "Did you bring your guitar?"
Yeah.
So I've already done a ton of just jamming with Martin at acoustic nights on acoustic. So yeah, it's gonna rear its head at some point.
What kind of acoustic do you use?
I currently just picked up a cheap Mitchell, which is a Guitar Center. It is not an expensive guitar, but it sounds good, plays good. My daughter bought me a Mitchell a few years back, a 12-string. I'd never owned a 12-string.
Wow.
She got a deal. She really wasn't sure what she was getting, and she got a Mitchell, and I was like way impressed by it. So yeah, I got a 12-string and a 6 out of that brand.
Now, as far as this band, you guys are working on new songs. You said you're going to get recorded. Any idea where you would go to record? Would this be a basement thing, or would you go see Andy Pavlin again? Any ideas for that yet?
I love Andy. That's certainly been mentioned. And earlier this year, we went and did a demo of all our songs and with Kevin Wesley Williams. That went really well. We've got a really good relationship with him. So I'm not sure where we're going to go. We're getting close. Everything's getting all our beats per minute written down, and
right.
we're about ready.
Now, lastly, do you guys have gigs coming up? Have you got stuff lined up? I mean, anything coming up in the next couple months or next month or anything like that?
No, not yet. I'm certain something's going to fall into her lap. Like in December, Sherry Claire messaged me and asked if we could play with the Nasties at Corktown. Right? I think that was like less than a week, notice. And we said yes, because we wanted to get out there and kick tires, and and we got our shiny brand new singer here, and we were the first band. It went well. There are some things that certainly that I'm going to learn from, and some tweaks to the set list and all that. But I'm glad we did it. So no, currently nothing is booked. We just wanted to make sure that we got the rest of the set list learned and ready to go, and then we want to get the recording thing going. Something's going to fall in their lap. I'll be all over it. But right now, there's nothing there.
I saw some video of that show, by the way. You guys are great. I didn't anything wrong with it at all. I thought you guys are right on top of it. Just continue in that direction. You guys will be fine, man. You'll be more than fine, especially with your pedigree and what you've been involved in over the years. I know it's going to be good. I just hope you guys can finally settle on a name. Nothing wrong with what you're using now. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, anyway, Dave, I'm going to let you go. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. I wish you and the band the best. Keep in touch with me. Let me know when you've got some recordings ready. I'll be more than happy to air them for you on the show, create a little hype that way. And, keep in touch and let me know when you got some shows coming out too. And I can keep people up on that as much as I can.
I will do. Thank you very much.
All right, Dave. You have a good night, buddy.
You too. Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
That was Dave Seymour, who played in, as he mentioned, several bands. He's now in a band where they're looking for a name, obviously, as we discussed. They're going by DLC, which is the letters of their names. He was in Dead and Five, tremendous hard rock metal band that turned a little punk near the end, but put out some tremendous music. If you're not familiar with them, you need to be. You need to check them out. You need to go on streaming services and check them out. Really good hard rock metal. Yeah, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Hey, is that old stereo system of yours giving you the blues? Maybe the receiver has a blown channel or the turntable just doesn't work right. Well, then you should visit my friends at 7 Grand Audio Service. They've been in business for over 40 years, located at 25642 7 Mile Road in Redford Township. The owner, Dash, and his assistant, Harry, can fix just about anything. Old, new, doesn't really matter. Talking receivers, tape decks, turntables, EQs, power amps, and yes, guitar and bass amps. The phone number over there is 313-533-3635. They're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. You need to check them out and tell them Jimmy sent you. Anyway, with that being said, as I like to say, keep rocking.